Rap Circle is finally here. I know everybody been waiting for it, right?
So let's talk about Winston Churchill. We're coming up on next week. The 10th is the anniversary of Winston Churchill becoming the prime minister. And really, what struck me when I saw that pop up in my calendar was he is, his legacy is under attack, much in a similar way that George Washington and Jefferson and some of our founders, as well as other leaders.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing this movie, Darkest Hour, and then Dunkirk, and thought to myself, there was so much more heroism and self-sacrifice than I knew. The movies opened my eyes down the rabbit hole a little bit because I enjoy reading history so much. So what is your just overall thoughts on Churchill and his legacy and all of that?
Aside from Maggie Thatcher, he's probably my favorite prime minister of England. But he was I'd say the right man for the right time. And I think we'll probably get into that a little bit more as we start picking apart like The Darkest Hour.
Sure.
We do have to kind of address some of the politics. I think that's the biggest problem that we have with historic films, is that we tend to look at them one of two ways. We tend to look at them as the legend we've come to believe about history, and or through the prism of our own modern point of view.
Right.
And I think a historian tends to try to look at things as much as they can, what was really going on here, because we know the facts, we know the dates, we know what actually happened, but sometimes we never stop to consider the why. And that's where a lot of times politics comes into it, and you get a lot of it in Darkest Hour, but a lot of it I think you get wrong.
Yeah.
So again, we'll probably get into that.
And, we'll use the trailer footage. I think it's less likely to get a copyright strike by using some of the trailer footage. So we'll just kind of zoom around and just have some different comments about it. But the film starts off with, the removal of Chamberlain and them not knowing exactly what to do when, people are not playing nice together. You have, the war over, the war is spreading across Europe into Belgium and France, and Churchill at least was right about this threat. So he has a lot of sort of like political capital that he's trying to play with his supporters to get into this prime minister role. In the film, Gary Oldman is he just immersed? And there's so many. What I love about the film too is sometimes when you have these character pieces, someone might transform into the look, but you don't get like different versions of the look. Gary Oldman has like 3 or 4 different versions of Churchill that he's kind of, it's like he's buttoned up. He has a hat, doesn't have a hat. He's got the cigar and some of the stereotypical looks. Sometimes he's in, there's a couple bath scenes or he's in a robe or he just got out of bed. And I thought, if anything, I had to just start by trying to praise him because I thought he just did this incredible job. So that was one thing I wanted to start off with. And I see, Troy is kind of bouncing in and out. Not sure if he's having a problem on his end or something else going on. So if you're seeing that, that's what's going on there. As far as the film itself, I think it's extraordinary, dealing with this sort of internal struggle in Britain to know how to move forward. The politics, of course, is what Troy was talking about, of like, well, you have a massive sort of anti-war coalition that centers around Chamberlain. And what makes Churchill interesting is when he creates his war cabinet, he really has an unorthodox decision to create or rather include all of his biggest critics. Like he's literally creating his political opponents as part of this war cabinet to make these decisions. So he's constantly under pressure from these people. There's parts of the film where they're conspiring to figure out if they can sort of unseat his authority to continue, this war and actual military conflict. So the film starts and progresses. You have Lily James, who's basically his personal typist. and he comes across as uh, just kind of being a bully and obnoxious and whatever. Jace Fox with us. Hey man. Troy he's in he's rebooting. He'll come back a second. I hope you're doing well. Thanks for stopping in. Um, I don't. I mean, again, that's why I wanted to bring Troy in because I wanted to make sure he could really speak to maybe some of the historical accuracies or inaccuracies of how Churchill is being portrayed. Uh, I think there's a lot of, like you said, their facts are pretty much the facts. Like there's certain dates, certain speeches, things like that they kind of adhered to pretty well. The portrayals I thought were great. Ben Mendelsohn as King George was fine. So I think the performances were great, and you sort of get this. It is a drama, but it's not because the performances are so good. It's not like one of these drab, hard to watch dramas. I actually just time seemed to me to felt like it just was going by pretty smoothly, pretty quick. And even though it's a heavy topic or whatever, I didn't feel sort of like really run down, or burned by any of it. So here's another look. See how different you can actually see more Gary Oldman here without the glasses and the hat, but his transformation is just tremendous. And these looks that he has. Here's one of the bathrobe scenes where he's in his pajamas, basically. Um, and it was really fascinating. And there's Troy. Troy's back.
Very sorry about that.
No
Computer
problem
problems.
at all. Well, you sound so much, brighter.
I don't know. There was
Yeah,
something going on, so
sure.
best that it's taken care of now, I guess.
I'm trying to just heap praise on Oldman's transformation, and these
Oh
different
yeah,
looks that he has, these different scenes. It's like look at how different. I mean, I'm not trying to say he's. It's just that the way the presentation, they didn't shy away from showing him with the cigar, without the hat, in his
right.
pajamas. He's all buttoned up, and they really are like multiple looks of Churchill brought to life, and that made this film seem even more believable to me. It makes the
Not
time
to
go by well
mention,
because you
I
get
mean,
his
I
dynamic
completely
personality.
lost Gary Oldman in, and that's
Yeah.
to me a sign of a good actor. When you forget, oh, that's that guy that I saw in this and that and the other.
Mhm.
He, as far as you're concerned, he's Winston Churchill,
Sure.
and he got the character down. He was overbearing. He was manic. The booze, the cigar, even the mumbling. Although
Sure.
I think he lessened. He softened the mumbling because you need to understand him in the
Mhm.
film.
So a lot of that, and then I said this is why I want to make sure I had you included you because I wanted you have at least some more familiarity than I think I do, as far as some of the historical backdrop and the
Mhm,
elements
mhm.
of the transition from Chamberlain to him, and before we get to Dunkirk. But
Yes.
how much of this political unrest and his political capital and how everything is at odds? What are some of the fact checking that you would kind of
Okay.
throw into that conversation?
So you got to consider that again. You you got to weigh this with some of this is my opinion, okay,
Mhm.
but that's always going to be the case. Again, there's the facts, and then there's the politics. When you get to politics, we're talking, you know, a little bit of opinion. But you must consider that first. I think um, he's coming in Chamberlain. I think sometimes Chamberlain gets a bum rap. Again, you have to look at the history and try to look at it a little bit from his point of view, right? Remember, World War One is coming right off of, or excuse me, World War Two is coming right off of World War One. We've
Correct.
had a generation that's already gone through a horrible, horrible war.
Yep.
So the idea that they are war weary should be obvious. Okay. So then when you look at how Chamberlain led, you go, well, kind of understand it. And I
And
think this
let me just jump in and say I didn't think the film did a good enough job of trying to convey that. That's totally skipped. Like that's if you don't know that
Mhm.
timeline and the effect on the European nations,
Yeah.
it's not they just jump right into removal of Chamberlain. They're all about peace. He's viewed as weak. It's all this is the perspective, but they don't give you a little bit of that backstory. There's really just nothing. You're just thrown into it. So that is a very, very fair, probably an often forgot criticism of the film to not
I
give an audience a a more fair presentation or way we view the other characters, because it's not just Chamberlain, it's his party and his supporters.
I agree, and I even have to go so far as to say that that's kind of a double-edged sword, right? So on the one hand, it's almost like they're assuming more more knowledge on the audience's part than they're showing, right?
Mhm.
But then on the other hand, they play kind of fast and loose with it. So if you are the sort that would have that sort of perspective on Chamberlain, you're also going to notice some of the other problems with what they do and what's
Mhm.
not there and so forth. For example, okay, uh, speaking exactly to what you said about not giving us the setup that we should have. Um, there's all the scenes that are taking place in that underground bunker, right? Why are they in that underground bunker?
Right.
There was
Right.
no discussion
Explanations.
of the
Mhm.
Blitz,
Mhm.
right? And one also has to keep in mind too, and that's the other side of what I was saying about Chamberlain. On the one side, you understand Chamberlain's reticence to get into another war. On the other hand, they're freaking being bombed, right? It's like, hello. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, if we're having these meetings in a bunker, and that is the context under which they, you know, expressed no confidence in Chamberlain and brought in who? The warmonger, right?
Mhm.
You
Yeah.
you bring in a you have a warmonger and you have him behind a glass case, break in case of emergency. That's
Right.
what they were doing with Winston Churchill. They were breaking because it was an emergency. So I think a lot of the arguments you're seeing there make no sense in that context. It's like nobody wants to sue for peace. All he had to do was turn around and say, "Hey guys, you brought me in because we're being bombed. We're in a bunker. We're about to lose our country." In fact, you have that conversation with the king
Right. I
about
was looking to see if the trailer had a shot of that, because I think that deserves a
yeah,
lot.
yeah,
'Cause I know this is like when he goes there. It was it was really fascinating because you could feel the tension that you're talking about.
yeah,
Like I don't really like you. You're not the one that I want to be here, but I feel like okay, you're the one. Like
right,
it was great because it's yeah, the film sells itself short because it's funny because it's such a great film, and it's like
yes,
there's so many little things they could have done, like a conversation that could have had like two less lines here and add two lines to talk about, what do you expect from me? We've been, we World War I was like, 2 months, the 2 years this year.
yeah,
It would have been easy to throw some of that, throw the audience some of those little breadcrumbs.
right, right. And it's the same argument that I often make about the comic book movies, right?
Hmm.
You know, if you're doing an adaptation of some comic book, okay, go ahead and throw the lines in for the audience that knows that lore. Because the ones that don't, well, that's what Wikipedia is for. You know that as soon as they get home, they're going to look up all the little Easter eggs, the things they didn't understand. They
Right.
might even start reading some of those old back issues, right? Same thing with a historical thing. You're going to go, I want to learn more about the Blitz. I want to learn more about Dunkirk. I want to, so forth.
Yeah, I was thinking after we kind of had talked a little bit to put this together, where we have these two films that have this like Venn diagram approach, where they could be so perfectly as
Yes.
like, as a history and an experience that you can go through, folks, to experience all this happening. And I thought about the film 1917 with World War I, and then I thought
I
about
have not seen it yet,
ooh, that would
believe
be
it
a
or
fun
not.
one to do with you because they shot it so that it's in real time. So it's in real
Oh,
time.
that's what
And
now,
it is a cinematography masterpiece.
now,
Even if it's never your thing, or someone who's not a war movie, and you can say if you know anyone's just into film,
yeah.
the extra scenes and how they did certain shots, it's mind blowing what Sam Mendes pulled off with that film. It's crazy.
You touch off something wonderful there. You just described that movie as being real time, right? And it
Hmm.
covers a
Hmm.
specific right.
Yeah, you get 2 hours or how I don't know exactly
Here,
how long the film is.
these
Yep.
two movies we're talking about here tonight,
Yep.
very different. You have one, Dunkirk, which is told out of order,
Yep.
non-linear, not a problem. I kind of like it, okay, but that's a different scenario. And then you have this one that implies, because of the ticking clock,
Yep.
that it is real time, but it's absolutely not.
Right.
It covers things that haven't happened yet, that won't happen for maybe years, or should have already happened, and condense it down. And it's like, you're lying to us. You're telling us these things happened on this date, and they didn't.
Yep.
You know,
Yep.
that kind of bugged me too. But I did also want to comment on the freeze frame you got right here.
Mhm.
So this is, if I'm correct, this is the scene where he's talking to the king, and the king
Correct.
is appointing him.
I didn't see a shot quickly. I pulled it around quickly to see. I didn't see a shot with him and Ben Mendelsohn as King George. So they're standing face to face, folks, and there's like a back and forth with them. So go ahead.
So His Majesty is asking him to, accept the posting. I love the end of this scene as someone who actually does history reenacting, specifically British history reenacting.
Ooh, all right.
I know exactly what it's like to be in that awkward situation where I'm not supposed to turn my back, but I need to get to the door.
Yeah, I have to go now, and he like backs up,
and he's like,
"Can I turn around?" He just backs up, and he's looking like, "I know I can't turn around. I know I can't turn around." Which is portrayed. It creates humor without a gag, because it's awkward and nervous. So you as an audience person just kind of have some stress relief as you kind of move through the film. And this keeps happening several times in the film where they have humor, but not punchline jokes. It's just fun. There's little fun.
Because it's the way life really goes, right?
That's correct.
That
Especially the scenes
with
his wife, right? Similarly, it's like him with his wife. It's like there's tension breaking because it's just, it's just them. It's like, I loved it. It made this film feel so authentic.
And I don't know if this particular scene happened in that way.
I don't know.
But again, knowing the protocol and knowing the relationship between those two, they were not friends, right?
That is fact.
Whereas someone else who might have been like, Chamberlain or Halifax or whatever, might have had a closer relationship with the king, who would have been like, okay.
Well, and the king probably would have walked them out. Like, it would have been more of a side-by-side walk rather than, you can go now. Because it's that awkwardness, like you said. I love your analogy. It's break the glass case and bring the warmonger in. It's like, this guy does not want to do this. He doesn't even want to be a part or being, he doesn't want to have the villagers at the gate, basically, to say, you've got us into another war, king. You know what I mean? That kind of stuff. That's how this king is thinking. So.
And I feel like that is this is where there's an offset. I feel like on the one hand, like I said, you have these, I don't know, the peaceniks or whatever saying, we want to appease, No, that time is over. It's time to focus on war. Is the king going to be taking that point of view too? He's already invited, Churchill to be prime minister. He knows the need for a strong, basically, offense at this point. He's not going, and he's having conversations about, I might have to go to Canada and rule in exile.
Yeah.
Then you don't sue for peace.
Right. Yeah. And well, you figure I got to be honest, even after some of these conversations, and I watched it again today, and I thought to myself, why wouldn't you just leave?
Right.
I mean, there is a certain element of, trying to keep some sort of order. There's got to be somewhere safer to be, but whether that be in Ireland or something. I don't even know exactly where he would need to go to be safe, but there's different things like that didn't quite make sense in a way when you look at it that way. But
I can answer that.
Yeah. I mean, I know there's
because there is historic. And see, again, this is all the out of time kind of stuff. They took things from the future and pulled it into here to tell a narrative. One of these days we're going to have to do what was that, Midway? We'll have to do Midway. That's another one that I think squeezes too much into one movie. But in this very circumstance, it's later on in the war that the king starts talking about that possibility of having to, rule in exile from Canada. But that was a conversation that happened, just not then. That's kind of putting the cart before the horse.
I will touch on this as a positive again in storytelling, because this scene is it's him having a moment with his family celebrating that he's going to be the
Yep.
prime minister. So we actually learn a lot about the family
True.
and their closeness and how supportive they are for him and that kind of thing, without having to have a whole bunch of expositions and conversations. And, he doesn't have to kiss every kid at, good night. He doesn't,
Right.
sometimes you see these movies and you're like, oh my God, I've seen this like 20 times. It's just, you just know you can go to the bathroom in the movie theater because you know what's going to happen. This
Right.
film, what made this film so good was I think it's rare to have pulled off what you said, because
I agree.
normally if Troy had said, well, they messed with the timeline, they put this here, they put this there, and if anyone's listened to me or they've read my reviews over the years, I can't stand all of that. It just drives me completely nuts most of the time because it alters something either for no reason or they butcher it and it creates a cascade of other problems. Somehow this film, it kind of creates a couple of issues, but nothing that derails the film for me. That is
Right.
exceedingly rare. So
I don't know. The underground scene kind of bothered me.
I don't even know where that came from, but I will
I
tell you
don't
that
either. It
I'm such a
seems to
wuss that
be
it still got me today.
a
I
flight
have
of
to be honest.
whimsy for the purpose of humanizing him, I guess, and that's fine. There are other ways to do it, like the family scene that you just described.
Right.
Creating something out of whole cloth that never happened bugs me.
Yeah, I don't even have frame of reference. I just know it does get me. I'm a wuss for that scene. I don't know why.
It's a
I
great
actually
scene
I want to lift.
cinematically.
I almost want to lift the scene for those days, where you hope that maybe someday you'll get monetized on YouTube and you can play a little clip if someone throws you a couple dollars super chat or something. You can play the little clip and
Right.
little girls like never, and it's like we'll never surrender. It's like it's like yes, it's patriotism and it's best. This is great, and it's like
it's wonderful. That's just not
I
how
understand
he
it's all heartstrings and stuff, and it's like
No, I get that too. But there's
yeah.
what was I may have just derailed myself. I forgot.
I
But
probably made it worse.
no, don't worry, it's fine. But no, I do have a if we do more of these, if you have me back, I think that I'm a little complex. It's not real simple to just sum up how I feel about historical pieces. I love historical accuracy. At the same time, I can appreciate maybe truncating things, simplifying for the purpose of a film or whatever. But I feel like there's certain rules. Don't make up things
Sure.
out of whole cloth.
Right.
I look at like John Adams, that mini series from was it Showtime or something? I don't remember.
Yeah, Paul Giamatti's on. Yeah.
Paul Giamatti, yeah, exactly. That's a great one they took some liberties, but if you know the history, you're like, I see what they're doing there. That's fine.
That's pretty good. Yeah.
I say the same thing about and I'm hoping you'll want to do this one too, Saving Private Ryan.
Oh, that's
Saving Private Ryan
it's a masterpiece. It's the best one.
It's a historic fiction.
Yes.
But it does it in such a way that the flavor of the war is more accurate than I think most war films.
It's rooted in some factual elements that they threaded together in a fictional story. Ryan just he kind of chimed in about basically what you were saying. Churchill was a great wartime leader, but he was not a great peacetime leader later on. But Churchill was old and ill by that time. Yeah, he was removed immediately, basically, whenever some of that stuff was done.
So. No. I absolutely agree.
Yeah.
But I feel like there's a responsibility to the legacy of real people, right? So, if you're talking Saving Private Ryan, you kind of have latitude. They're inspired by real people, but they're not. So you can be fictionalized about it.
Oh, that's a great
shot. But they get all the points about all the backstory of the history is accurate. When you look at Titanic, that bothers me because they took some liberties with real people that were side characters, and it's like that man was a real person who has a family, and you just dishonored him in this film. That kind of a thing.
So in addition to the moving calendar, you do have like a couple of scenes where you have like newspaper stuff and ticking clocks and things like that. And That's Clementine. That's the spouse.
Do
Let's
you
see
know
this
who the
thing.
actress was that played his wife?
I
She's
do not know. I'd have to look it up.
That's okay. She struck me as familiar, and I couldn't place her,
Well, she
but
looks
she was
so much like
perfect.
Vera Farmiga. Farmiga. I don't know how to say her last name. She's the lady that was in
Yeah,
Bates
but
Motel and
she's
stuff. But
like
that's not her. That's not
decades
who it
older.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not who it is. But that's
No, yeah.
and in real life, Clementine, wasn't quite that pretty. I mean, good night. He was not that lucky to have a wife that
Fair
looked that
enough.
good.
Fair
Yeah,
enough.
so he gets Gary Oldman definitely gets an upgrade in the
But I do
adaptation.
feel that the character was pretty good, pretty
No, I
well
thought
done.
the characterization was great
Yeah.
because it's anyway. Uh, Kristen Scott Thomas,
Is that her
she
name?
is
Yeah.
I famous. She was part of the Four Weddings and a Funeral film, the classic film from '94. She's been an English Patient, where she won
That's where
nominated
I
for
know her
English
from. Yeah,
Patient.
yeah.
Yeah, she's done a ton of work. I mean, her resume is massively long. You know what? That's funny because she has such an incredible resume, and she's not a name that you ever think of off the top of your tongue. At least mine.
Right.
I would never. Yeah, but she's been like Mission Impossible and stuff like that. So yeah. Um. So and just kudos to. I am not a big Lily James fan, to be honest. In a lot of her
Mhm.
movies, and basically, I got to be honest. Even in this movie, she doesn't have a lot of range. She's kind of the same character
Yes.
showing up over and over again. But it really works in this film
Yep.
because she represents not only a different voice against Churchill's behavior, she
Hmm.
a lot of times is representing the audience. She's representing how we're feeling in those moments. Like sometimes she's there as the typist and she's transcribing or
Right.
whatever, and you'll see her responses and how she's handling all this information around her or what is actually in the letter, and it literally is how we're feeling or what we're supposed to feel. And I
Yeah.
think that was a fair way to
And
make
I
sure
think
the audience is staying with you. That
I
was some
think
good.
the other thing that she did was she served to show moments that humanized Churchill when
Nice.
she unable to continue typing and she becomes emotional. You
Mhm.
know, it
The
gives you the
reality of
opportunity to
the
soften him just a bit,
yeah,
and for
the battle of Calais, right? Where they're just gonna have to
right,
sacrifice men, and he's writing the letter to the leader, and she
exactly.
basically stops typing, and you're like, yeah. And he starts breaking down too. He's like, okay, this is and then they start, there's another scene where she's confessing that the brother had sacrificed
Right.
himself already
That's a
in the
little bit later,
war.
but you're right.
It's
But
another scene
you
that's really good.
and it's not too far removed from the scene where he's making a decision that we're going to have to sacrifice, what was it?
4,000.
4,000 for 30,000 or something like that?
Yeah, he thinks they're only gonna get 30,000,
Right.
but he's willing
And
to at
let's
least
face
try
it,
something. Yeah.
that is that is the mathematics of war. Unfortunately, that's what is required. It's it's kind of that Spock line, the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few.
Hmm.
And it sucks from a human standpoint, but you need people that can look past that in times of tragedy like that. But
Yeah.
don't think that didn't weigh on him, you
Oh,
know?
and I thought they did a good job of conveying that. Yeah, so well, so well. Obviously, one of the most brilliant scenes of the film is his initial speech, where they use the red light.
Yes.
He's going to be on air because he's delivering his first live speech.
Yep.
He's awkward. He's paused. He's changing words at the last minute, and they use this red light and this effect
Yep.
that I think is just brilliant because it really um, moves you into the seriousness of all this, and then you get the other side of Churchill, which is I'm glad the trailer did this too. It puts he holds up this V symbol. He gets this
Mhm.
image in his head of V for victory, but he holds it up backwards. So it's
Yep.
basically like to the common man, it just means F you.
Yeah.
So he learns victory, but it's not. He's saying this, and he laughs about it. So you have
Yeah.
this great, complicated character thrown in this almost impossible scenario and trying to stand up. And then you have historical context around it. Love this film. Love this film.
Exactly.
Love this film.
There's one little scene that caused me to chuckle. Um, I have to wonder if you even caught it. There's the scene where he has the phone conversation with FDR, and he's looking
Oh,
for
he's in the toilet. Yeah,
WC,
he's in the
Winston
water
Churchill.
closet.
Well,
Oh
Winston
yeah, yeah,
Churchill.
yeah.
There's that parallel, and it's
Right.
like, American audiences might not catch that. They'll look and they'll go, Winston Churchill. Wait, is this his office? What's going on here?
Oh, that's
But it's
true. I didn't
the
think of
water
it that
closet.
way. It's
And
the
I
water closet.
chuckled and I'm like, And
Oh, I
then it
really
caused
like
me,
that scene because he puts the phone down.
yeah.
So basically, and again, I'm trying not to give too many major spoilers, folks. This is all
Mhm.
historical record, and I hope that you see a film like this. We want to recommend Darkest Hour because I want to encourage good films, and then I want to
Yes.
encourage you to grow. And this is a great heroic story that is kind of under attack by current political culture. But in this scene, he's asking Roosevelt for help. It's like, give me something, Franklin. Give me something. Get me planes. And Franklin is totally jerking him around. Like, and then it's like it's so absurd. He's like, well, I can get planes to the Canadian border, and
Yeah.
if you can bring horses, and he's like,
Yeah.
oh, and at some point he just puts the phone down. He's so exasperated.
Now
And
that's another thing
and I'm
that
sure this is either totally fictionalized or exaggerated or
mm,
something. I don't
not
know, but
entirely.
I loved it.
Okay. This is my interpretation of it. Okay. I think that the film writer was trying to convey some real world history through, I don't want to call it a gag, but it kind of was. The fact is, the US, FDR, we wanted to get involved. We just had a problem with kind of international law and the situation and things we'd agreed to and whatnot. We could do a whole other show about false flags and
Right.
why we got into World War II. But honestly, this movie made it seem like FDR was like, I don't want to get involved. I don't want to get involved. He's on the Chamberlain side. And that wasn't the
No,
case.
I think that there is a line there that talks about like what's it called, something national act that Congress did.
Yes.
It's handcuffed me. I can't do anything. So
And
I felt like he was trying to play kind of
that
Chamberlain, but
was,
also like pass the
yeah,
buck. He blamed somebody else.
I feel like that was a film shorthand to talk about that
Okay.
and say, because we had the whole Lend-Lease thing going on and they kind of implied that in that scene, but it was like, this is what we would have to do, under international law and
Yeah.
agreements to help you out. Now, the reality is, did
They
he
easily
really
could have
make them
done
bring
something.
some horses across the board? No, he
It
of
was all,
course
it was
did.
just comical, if nothing else. It was great.
It's like, you realize that's what we'd have to do.
Yeah.
And then he's like, I'll deliver these planes to Canada and then you just get them home.
Yeah.
That's
As
what
though that
happened.
would just be this easy thing to do, or how long it would actually take to get over there with a carrier and bring back. I mean, it was just like it was
It's
this
true.
crazy. Yeah. Anyway, uh, we'll run long if we keep carrying on with Darkest Hour too much. This is a shot. Oh, did I close it? I closed it. Let me put it back. These are these speeches and pieces are. Oh, come on now, play nice, StreamYard. There are pieces that are great. Some great lifts from actual speeches, some not so
Yep.
much. Um, I just love it.
Churchill was an
And I will
incredible
say with
orator.
these scenes, this scene in particular,
Yeah.
they did a really good job of bringing this to life. I thought this was the set design,
It
costuming.
really does look like Parliament, to be honest
I
with
thought
you.
this scene, these scenes in particular, from what I have seen, that's pretty accurate. That's pretty great stuff. Somebody did some great work
I
there.
kind of question the lighting in this
No,
scene, but
no,
I
yeah. I
understand
mean,
it's for
obviously,
dramatic
despite it,
effect.
yeah. I don't know about the lighting, but as far as just the look of it, set design, costume,
Yeah,
all that was good. So this is a high recommend for me. A
yeah,
high recommend for me. If you
I
love
do too.
anything that's this sort of like elements of history, politics, war, drama, great acting. This has
You
a lot of that. It's a high recommend.
you follow me on Twitter, so I'm assuming you saw my
Oh yeah, you're
Twitter.
a ball of fun on Twitter, bro.
You saw my post about this,
Uh,
about,
I don't know.
maybe
Maybe.
not. So
I don't know. There's,
ju-
you post a lot like I do, so if I may have
this
missed
is
that
this
one.
is one that your audience might enjoy. When you asked me to do this, it was like, I saw the movie once. I need to refresh my memory. I went to my shelf to look for it and I didn't see it. It turns out it was misfiled.
Oh, right, because
Spoiler.
you posted a
But
picture of the DVD. You had it or
but
something.
I thought that I had it and I couldn't find it. So I'm like, I went to Amazon right away and I ordered it, right? Okay. So I reordered it and it arrives the next day. I didn't realize it would make it in one day. And the Alexa, well, I don't want to say her, come on, the Echo Dot comes on and, says, does the little yellow thing. And I'm like, what's my notification? One new notification, darkest hour has arrived.
Oh,
I'm
right.
sitting there going, wow, that's ominous.
I remember that tweet.
Oh,
That
I
was so
ordered
good,
the,
right.
okay, yeah, that's what that is.
Yes, that is so good. And actually, anything that involved, actually, it was funny you say that, because I started creating the thumbnail, and just typing the phrase "darkest hour" was a little weird. Like, it's just a strange phrase to have to throw out there. So anyway, that's our analysis of Darkest Hour, folks. Tell us what you think. Give it a watch, especially in today where there's not a lot of great time stuff. Let me say hey to Apollome's Minion. Hey, there's a lady. I love your little doggy videos. Make sure you keep them coming. Keep them coming.
A great
Great film.
transition, though, for that is that because I'm assuming you want to go into Dunkirk now, right?
Yes.
That darkest hour speech, and it comes up again in Dunkirk.
Yes.
Doesn't happen until after Dunkirk.
Right.
But they drew on it a little bit early in the movie. So again, you're like, and
it's funny how, like I said, it's like as a whole, I can still recommend Darkest Hour, even though these things pep. So I'm watching the.
Yeah.